Hello and welcome to the Zach Ratliff Show. I'm Zach. Thanks for being with me today. I'm glad to be with you. Thank God for another day alive and able-bodied. You know, that's a blessing, and so I thank Him for it. I'd like to thank my sponsors for today. For today of the show, Mortgage Financial here in Texarkana, Elmwood Custom Goods, and Church on the Rock, Texarkana. That's churchontherock.org. So thank you to those guys, and go look them up. I've linked them on my Facebook page, but Elmwood Custom Goods has a website. Everybody's got a website. You can go find what they do and can offer, and let them take care of you any way they can. So there we go. All right, let's get going. Let's talk about the Donald Trump, the Donald taking over D.C. with the National Guard. First of all, it's the District of Columbia. They didn't want any one state to have more power at the beginning than any other state, so they made a district that was federally controlled. So the person who already controlled the District of Columbia's National Guard is the president, right? That's just the way it was. It wasn't until the 70s that they got the home rule, which gave them a mayor and whatnot, and they could kind of run the city themselves, which they've ran it into the ground. So this is not unprecedented. I searched Grok earlier because I got a call this morning. It's like, hey, how many times has this happened? At least 7 times a president has, called the Guard into D.C. This is not unprecedented. The Constitution is very clear that he has control over this, and it's not a thing. But here's what's funny. You're hearing on the left and national news say, "Well, but the crime rate's falling in D.C. The crime rate's falling." Okay, maybe it is. But yesterday at 12:30 in the afternoon, I sent myself this article from Furiosa on X.com, but also on Washington 4 NBC, their website. D.C. police commander suspended, accused of changing crime statistics. Well, of course their crime rate is down if they're changing the statistics. Of course it's going to show that they're doing better. That's the thing about every Democrat-run city, right? Detroit, Chicago, Austin, New York, wherever you, inner city, Houston. Wherever you go, San Francisco. Sorry, the Rice-A-Roni theme went through my mind. All of it, every one of them. To maintain power, they'll change the statistics. But the policies never work. The policies never work. You keep, promising Coke machines in the classroom and everybody keeps voting for you for student president. It's ridiculous. The policies don't work. The policies of the left don't work. It's been shown time and time again. And here's what's happening. We, the people, are waking up. That's why they need more people that aren't raised in our culture, knowing our Constitution, that aren't, beholden to our Constitution to come in and give them the right to vote, or at least count them in the census so that they can pad the numbers to stay in power. We've been long gamed for, since 1920. Just after World War II, we were held up as the light of the world, and your government could do no wrong, and that's just not the case. Our government saw that the people were tired of war and thought we were, the pinnacle, and everybody wanted to be like us, and so they took advantage of us. They took advantage of us, and that's where we are. It's a wild thing. Okay, so then there's this from NAS on X.com. DNI Tulsi, Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard's interview has gone viral. Tulsi Gabbard just exposed Obama's election scheme. And I'm just going to read this to you until I get to my point. It wasn't only about Russia. It was bigger. It was coordinated. It was aimed at overthrowing an election. And then it's got a bunch of parts to it. You should go read that if you want. But I'm going to give you this. This is a big deal or to the Fox News crowd and to some of that. Now, the mainstream media is not going to play it up at all. They're going to act like this is just a bunch of baloney. But to some of us, it's not a big deal because we've known this. I said it when it was happening. You said it when it was happening. Your crazy Uncle Earl in the garage said it when it was happening. That, this is a coup. They're going against us. The intelligence is just now being released that has been hidden from us to verify what we already knew through critical thinking, through common sense, through God-given intelligence. We knew that, hey, something's not sitting right. I believe they're trying to sabotage this man. Well, now the evidence is following up. So, obviously I talk about it a lot because we do this every day. But the reason I don't just dwell on it is because this is old news. I forget that the rest of the country is out there and doesn't even know what's going on. I forget that most people aren't paying attention. Look, and once again, I enjoy paying attention to this. I like to get up, I like to read my Bible, I do my praying, I pray with my daughter before she goes to school. Then I consume news. I enjoy it. However, you can consume enough of it to where you think everybody at least knows of the stories you know of. And that's just not the case. So, I've already been made fun of and called names and all the things for believing what I believe. And let me tell you something. When the facts come out, nobody ever comes back and is like, oh, hey, you were right. You all know that isn't what happens. They just go on like, oh, that's crazy. Nobody's like, oh, all these conspiracy theorists, they were absolutely 100% correct. Yeah, we know we were. That's why we've been telling you. Anyway, there's that. Here's something cool that's happening that I had heard of. I didn't really understand how it worked. This is from Rod D. Martin on X.com. Congress just killed the rules that made cars ugly. You know how all our cars look alike? Which never really thought about that until you see pictures of side note, I'll tell you what I did notice. Talked to one of my buddies who's a sales manager at a car lot. And I'm like, hey man, is every car I'm seeing, is it just me or are they all white, gray, or black? He's like, yeah, not a lot of color these days, which is wild because every car, I'm looking out the window here and I see 4 white cars and 1 black one, right? And that is where we are. I don't know. But anyway, so what made this happen was the corporate average fuel economy standards, which was from 1975. They call it the CAFE standards. And that's what gave you your fuel efficiency, but then it said how high a car could be, what angles they could use, what classified cars. So that's why you have, certain cars that are SUVs, high enough to be SUVs, but ride on a car chassis and all these things where they all kind of look alike. It's because of these standards. So Rod's point in this, Rod D. Martin on X.com, his point is, hey, maybe we're going to get some cool looking cars out of this. Now that the standards aren't necessarily gone, they just remove the penalties for not enforcing them or for not following them. So Rod Martin's point is, maybe we get something cool out of this. Maybe we get some creativity back. And that would be great. That would be great. So anyway, I just thought that was neat. I never thought about the killing of creativity from a government regulation standpoint, but absolutely it did. All right, let's go to X.com Rapid Response 47. This has to do with how I told you the DC crime rate was falling, right? And that's what they've been saying. Inside the DC crime rate, this Rapid Response 47, DC has had the 4th highest homicide rate in the United States in 2024, with a rate of 27.3. Let's see. Let me make this thing work. with a rate of 27.3 homicides per 100,000 people. DC's homicide rate is almost 6 times higher than New York City's homicide rate of 4.7. DC's homicide rate is almost 4 times higher than LA's homicide rate of 7.1. DC's homicide rate more than doubles Newark's rate of 12.2. DC also beat out Atlanta, who's 24, which that's not good. Chicago, who's 21. When you think of murders, you think of Chicago, Compton, and Oakland. And Washington, D.C. is less safe than all of those places. But once again, the key on all of those places is that they're all ruled, or not ruled, basically ruled, but they're all run by the same people. And those same people are Democrats. Oh, we're not going to charge you bail. We're not going to do this. We're just going to slap you on the wrist. You just make us a promise and tell us you'll do better. And we're going to believe you, and we're going to pat you on the hiney and tell you it's okay, sugar plum, go get them. That's not the way the world works. That's not the way the world works. All right. So, and then this is from the Washington Post, where they're calling Donald Trump, they're unprecedented, but I've already gone through that. This isn't unprecedented. I'm not even going to go over that because we just talked about it, and it is what it is. All right, let's go to the Wall Street Journal, and this is funny. I think this is kind of gets into some lifestyle creep for people, but this is an article, and I couldn't really pick up. It says a slow-rolling cavalry is conquering America's public roads. And it's talking about golf carts, right? Golf carts in neighborhoods. Now, this can be frustrating. I'm blessed enough in my life to live in a neighborhood where there are plenty of golf carts running around. And my aggravation with the golf carts is when kids drive them and pull out, and they've never been made to follow the traffic. Which, I mean, you can get. You know, if you're an adult, I think in Texas, and you have insurance on it, and it's stickered correctly, and you're going on a road that's speed limit 35 or under, but for kids, I don't think that's the case. So while there's some freedom in golf carts, and it doesn't really bother me to see people running around them in my neighborhood, and it doesn't bother me to see your kid riding around my neighborhood if they're responsible. I can see the other side of this issue where you got kids pulling out in front of cars and all these things, and it's going to be an issue. However, sometime this summer, while it's been warm, I don't know at what exactly when, I was driving through my neighborhood, and this little boy rode out in front of me on his bike. He never even looked up. I had to slam. And look, I'm not a neighborhood speeder because I've got a kid. I moved to my neighborhood because it's kid friendly. However, kid never let up. So I circled around him and his group of lost boys. I said, hey, come here. Brought him over to the window. I said, if y'all stay in the middle of the street, I'm going to go tell your mamas. And they kind of looked at me. I said, and your daddies. What we need, instead of getting mad about the golf carts, or getting mad about the bicycles, or getting mad about kids being kids, we need to expect kids to be kids. We need to expect them to be kids, and we need to be adults. Don't just get mad at it and post it on Facebook. Have enough about you to say, hey, I'm going to go talk to your mom and dad. Because, right, that's the world I grew up in. Oh, Zach, you did something. I'm going to make sure your dad knows about this. Oh, that's a problem. How about I just don't do anything that you're going to have to give him a bad report on me? Because I promise you, I didn't want dad handling it. Hey, my dad's one of my best friends now. But, that wasn't some justice I was looking for. Ever. Still not. I didn't want him handling it. And most kids don't. Don't just make a snarky Facebook comment and say, hey, if you do this again, I'm going to go tell your parents. Now, it isn't our job to raise other people's kids, but if you're in that neighborhood, and here's the thing, mom that's listening, don't get your feelings hurt when you tell your little boy's acting stupid. Oh, you called little Stevie stupid. No, we didn't. Said he was acting stupid. If you don't correct him, he's going to get run over by a car and killed, and then you're going to be mad at that car driver instead of you not having enough discipline to make him stay out of the street. That's the other side of it. So, yeah, we go tell the parents. Let these kids be kids, but, also need to follow some rules. So back to this article in the Wall Street Journal. People are just getting upset about all these golf carts. That's part of it. You're allowed to do that. If you don't want to live where there are golf carts, move to a different neighborhood. I'm okay with it. I like to see people getting out and doing stuff and enjoying themselves. And look, we're taxed on everything we do. Our time is valuable. If you can take your money and buy a golf cart and do it, and let's say you get promoted and it's a celebration or whatever, go do that. Nobody's mad at you for it, and if they are, hell with them. Anyway, I found that article interesting, being that I live in a golf cart neighborhood. Let's see. Okay. DC Drano. This is from Substack. DC Drano. Oh, yeah. This goes back to all these crime rates I was talking about, okay? And what Democrats allow. DC Drano on Substack. Democrats didn't improve schools in their cities. They lowered graduation standards. Democrats didn't decrease crime. They stopped arresting criminals. Democrats didn't secure our border. They stopped detaining illegals. Democrats didn't fix the economy. They lied about the job numbers. Then he says, see a pattern here? Absolutely we see a pattern here. That's right. They just call it, the Bible, the Bible's amazing, right? And it says, oh, you'll call evil good and good evil, and you call down up and up is down. Is that not the world that we're in? Everything that you've been taught to know as a hard fact, you're now told is wrong. Looking out at a lovely blue sky this morning. But there's somebody that, hey, well, that hurts my feelings if that's blue. Why do you have to call it that? Because that color is blue. Well, no, that's just a reflection of the ocean. Shut up. But that's where we are. Nothing is said anymore. Everything is relative. And we can rabbit hole on this if you want. Why is everything relative? Because when you get away from moral truth that we were founded on as a nation, which is the Word of God, that Jesus is Lord, that is the absolute truth. Any deviation from that has a long list of unintended consequences, down to, well, my son can play in the middle of the street on his bike, and I can ride my golf cart through your yard if I want to. Why? Well, because it feels good to me. What? Well, we don't have to arrest that person because it's going to hurt their feelings. Why? Because it feels good to me. We're going to let that pedophile go because he's not a pedophile. He's just a minor attracted person. What? That's where we are. Any deviation from truth. And let me go ahead and tell you. Not going to hold myself up as sinless because I'm far from it. I'm a sinner that's thankful for grace and pleading for mercy. I mess up every day, some days worse than others. I don't try to, but it happens. But all of that being said, the farther we slide from truth, the crazier this world's going to get. So are we surprised by this? If we aren't, it's because we've stuck our head in the sand. I don't think most of you are. There's a lot of you that listen to this show every day. But we can't allow those around us to be, look, we don't have to go shoving our views down everybody's throat. But we can't say, hey, that isn't quite right. That doesn't line up with the way that I understand the world based on truth. Where do you get your truth? I get my truth from the truth. It's like when somebody says, well, my Jesus, whoop. There's only one Jesus. Well, my truth, nope. There's only one truth. Now, you can follow your feelings. The Bible's pretty clear on not to do that. You can have your feelings, but you can't have your truth. But everything else seems to move into that. All right, let's move on. This is from Substack. Gary Boiler on Substack. Breaking State Department officials admit they didn't know how many employees worked there. Didn't know how many employees were under the State Department. Our government has been so mismanaged. They didn't even know how many people worked in a certain department. It took 3 months of Trump's administration to get a head count. And now, 3,000 of those bureaucrats are without a job. They didn't even know they were there. They were so unimportant, they didn't even know about them. Good. And then, of course, it asks the question, is this what you voted for? Yes, it is what I voted for. All right, and I'm just going through these Substack. This is from DC Drano on Substack. Gavin Newsom stops California cities from reporting crime statistics to FBI. The DC police chief fraudulently lowers crime statistics. Chicago, Baltimore, New Orleans mayors stop arresting low-level offenders. Democrats claim violent crime has gone down in blue cities. Do we see a trend? The trend is not what they're doing. Well, it is what they're doing. But the trend is that they will lie and manipulate us to maintain power. Like I say every day, this is all about the coalescing of power. These quote-unquote leaders don't care about people. They care about power. They care about status. They care about exalting themselves above everyone else and making you bow down to them, to the golden statue of them, or they will throw you in the furnace. I just hope if ever in the case, I can have enough about me like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego did. I'm going to worship my God, the truth, Jesus Christ. Right? It's easy to say you would have it, but you don't know if you do have it. All right, one last thing here, and then we're going to roll out. Eric Doherty on X.com. It has just been revealed that Adam Schiff signed off on leaking classified information to hurt President Trump over the Russia hoax. Kash Patel says it's now time for this to be investigated. We found it. We declassified it. Now Congress can see it. Once again, all the conspiracy theorists are like, yeah, we know. Now let's see what happens. Now let's see if the DOJ picks it up. Now let's see where it goes. Let's see if the Republicans have enough of a backbone to make something happen. Well, we don't want to go after our political enemies. No, not really. We do want to go after criminals and those people that are trying to tear down our system. Which, through all the stats and all the examples I've read this morning, are exactly what the Democrats are doing. Do I want to arrest somebody for having an opposing point of view? No, I'm not a Democrat. That's what they do. Do I want to arrest someone for conspiracy to commit treason? Yes, absolutely. That's a problem. For, really, in 2020, pulling off a successful coup against the sitting Commander-in-Chief of the United States, yeah, that's an issue. For leaking classified information so as to hurt our country, yeah, that's a problem. We just have to trust the system here. We voted for Donald Trump to get all this out into the clear. We're 6-7 months in. We just got to give him time. We've got to pray for him. We've got to pray for our leaders, pray for our country. We've got to beg forgiveness for what we've done. Just like in the Old Testament, anytime there was an exile of Israel, there was a faithful remnant. Maybe we're that for this. Anyway, the good news is, y'all, in the end, we win. And I'm not talking about R's and D's. I'm talking about Jesus. All right, y'all have a good day. I hope God blesses you. We'll be back. We'll do it all again tomorrow.